Insurrectionary Ecology, a document for dissemination and discussion by Anon. A reason to begin. Recently I've been trying to organize my thoughts about ecological direct action, having found myself in a state of confusion and unease. I wanted to become more deliberate and less reactionary in the things I did. Alongside reflecting on events, I started reading bits and pieces, books friends had recommended, old pamphlets that had once caught my eye, and I had squirreled away. A couple of years ago now, my favorite journal, Do or Die, Voices from the Ecological Resistance, and then there's a link in brackets, which is www.eco-action.org/DOD, finally set free its editors after a decade to take on other tasks. A void was left, and at various gatherings requests were made for people to self-publish zines and pamphlets about ecological issues, politics, and direct action, in order to keep the discussion and debate going on in the UK scene. As part of the way I organize my thoughts is scribbling things down, I thought I'd compile them and throw them out there, mainly because I'd like other people to do the same thing. As I'm mainly writing for me, it's an eclectic synthesis of stuff I found interesting. Read it for the bits you like, discard the rest. It should be short enough not to require much commitment. But if any of it should catch your imagination, as some of these ideas caught mine, then for fuck's sake, when you put my scribblings down, go out and do something. So why am I stressing about what I'm doing? Why do I feel such a burning urgency to get my act together? In such a short time, I've seen so much that I love lost, massive ecological changes accelerating, new unforeseen problems raising their heads, and the juggernaut of industrial civilization ploughing onwards. And this is an indented quote. Today, time is not marching on our side, but against us. We must fight all the harder. We cannot pass the gauntlet of defending the wild to unborn generations. It is that wildness and those unborn generations that are in peril today. What we do in our lives in this moment is of utmost importance, for no other generation has the weight of the future rested so heavily on the present. That's from Do or Die 10, Down with Empire, Up with the Spring. For me, our most urgent and pressing task is to protect our ecology. Ecology is the relationships between living things and living things in their environments. That wonderful, chaotic, tumultuous, self-organizing, ever-changing pool of life that makes up our home. Without a relationship with other species, life has no context and is not tenable. David Foreman, editor of Eco Defense, a field guide to monkey wrenching, and infamous for opening his mouth before fully engaging his brain, summed up this wider concern in a debate with the left-winger Murray Bookchin. I am deeply concerned about what is happening to people all over the world, yet, unlike much of the left, I'm also very concerned with what's happening to a million other species on the planet who haven't asked for this eco-catastrophe to happen to them. And I have a connection that is fundamental and very passionate with those species. I feel a real kinship with them, as well as with members of my own species. That's from Defending the Earth. Our ecology fundamentally underpins our existence, and our ecology is under sustained assault from rapacious and dominating social systems. These systems are maintained and fostered by human elites, general ignorance and apathy and fear. I think the point we find ourselves at is that although we must develop new social systems and protect old ones that balance with the wider ecology, the urgency for our long-term survival and the immediate survival of other species is to defend and protect the wider ecology now. Often, recently, I have friends who believe in the need for action in its defense, frozen into inaction. Whether this is from fully trying to comprehend a situation before entering it, or trying to fathom the best action to try to take and sort out a situation, but then feeling overwhelmed and disillusioned. This is a quote, "At its best, Earth First style offers a way forward that the left would be wise to learn from. We aren't rebelling against the system because we're sour on life. We're fighting for beauty, for life, for joy. We kick up our heels and delight at a wilderness day. We smile at a flower, at a hummingbird. We laugh at our opponents, and we laugh at ourselves. We are willing to let our actions set the finer points of our philosophy rather than debating endlessly about our program. We are willing to get started now, to make mistakes, to learn as we go." That's also from Defending the Earth. Previous political movements have often relied heavily on ideology, the dead weight of Astrophy's ideas. Though imagination and careful thought is vital, ideas mustn't stand between us and a lived reality. I personally don't think we have time to wait for future revolution. It is a process we must start now. Ideology is a set of ideas which tries to define life, what it should be, and how we should act. This is as impossible as life an interrelated fluid series of processes that you can live and engage with, but you can't define from outside the situation. Life is like poetry, and it is subjective, and the only reality is your interaction with it. On its own, a poem means nothing. Life is like poetry, only has meaning when you get involved. Autopoiesis, self-poetry, literally self-making, is a process we see all around us in the natural world. Life constantly creates itself in the context of its ecology, and also for us, our social context and relations to others. As a self-conscious part of the ecology, we must be insurrectionary with all of the movement and action that the term implies. If ever a theory needed to be defined by its praxis, it is this one. We shouldn't spend all our time organizing for a mystical future, but live a present praxis, i.e., theory defined by its actions and relevance. I succeed only in losing my grip on the present. Most of the time I live out of step with what I am, marking time with dead time. Revolution of early life, of everyday life. Our will to act is constantly co-opted and thwarted by other agendas that seek to control, mediate, or direct our actions with calls for reasonableness, coherence to ideology, or solidarity. If we have a genuine desire to defend our environment, to create new living situations with our friends, we should make sure that we are informed, but we shouldn't go for it. We should make sure we are informed, but we should go for it. It's only in genuine action that new realities will be found. This clarity from acting from within us, the situation, is described in this passage from The Revolution of Everyday Life. Human energy does not let itself be led away into the inhuman without a fight. Where is the field of battle? Always in the immediate extension of lived experience, in spontaneous action. I am not suggesting that the abstraction of mediations has to be countered by some wild, instinctive spontaneity. That would be merely to reproduce on a higher level the idiotic choice between pure speculation and mindless activism. The disjunction between theory and practice. I am saying that tactical adequacy involves launching the attack at the very spot where the highwaymen of experience lay their ambush. The spot where the attempt is to act is transformed and perverted. At the precise moment when spontaneous action is sucked up by misinterpretation and misunderstanding. At this point there is a momentary crystallization of consciousness, which illuminates both the demands of the will to live and the fate the social organization has in store for them. Living experience and its co-option by the machinery of authoritarianism. The point where resistance begins is the lookout post of subjectivity. For identical reasons, my knowledge of the world exists exclusively only at the moment when I act to transform the world. Recent lived insurrections, such as the rolling conflict of the battle against the Newbury bypass, the evolving situations of the defence against the M11 link road, the covert sabotage of genetic crops, were beautiful, inspiring, frustrating, and constantly surprising. These were well planned, and it was a process defined by action and experience as it unfolded. Before many actions were taken, it would have been difficult to conceive that they would have been feasible. As the M11 graffiti read, "We are far more possible than your most powerful imaginings." This continues to be true. That's the end of the introductory chapter.